welcome to Strings to Your Bow. I'm Chloe Weatherhead, your host and the proud owner of Andiamo Business Assistants. In this podcast, we dive into the powerful ways our guests' personal experiences shape their unique skills and superpowers, ultimately leading to their business success. This week, I'm excited to chat with Alex, the amazing coach behind Intent Coaching. Alex is passionate about helping people rediscover their authentic selves and unlock their full potential. If you're feeling a little bit lost or overwhelmed or stuck, trust me, you are not alone. Many of us juggle countless responsibilities trying to meet everyone else's needs while forgetting our own. But through coaching, Alex guides us in identifying the root causes of those feelings and developing effective strategies to manage them. With Alex's help and her holistic approach focused on self-care, boundary setting and personal growth, you can reclaim your identity, build unshakable confidence and achieve your most ambitious goals. Thanks for joining me today, Alex.
Hi, Chloe.
Let's start. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, so I am, as you said, I'm a life coach. Tend to focus a lot on kind of business, career, that kind of element, along with quite a holistic angle. I'm 43, stepmom of 2. Quite a big interest in all kind of things, self-care, yoga, a lot of meditation, a lot of self-education, reading. Like to get outside a lot. Recently in the last kind of year or so, I started doing some wild swimming, ice baths. Have learned along this journey to try and do things that kind of push me outside of my comfort zone. So yeah, keep trying new things, new adventures and new kind of self-care practices and things as well.
Amazing. So I am very new to wild swimming. I started wild swimming in probably about July of this year, after my mum has probably been talking about it for about 6 years and trying to convince me to do it for about 6 years. And yeah, I absolutely love it. There's something so magical about the whole thing. How long have you been doing it?
I've probably been doing it for, it's about 1.5 years now. So one of the charities that I help out with, the Nipple Innovation Project, they, for a lot of their fundraisers, they focus on kind of outdoor swimming and wild swimming and ice baths as well. So I got involved, did a first swim up at Chelodine, which is the reservoir at Bradford, yeah.
That's where I go.
Oh, really? Yeah, it's a lovely spot, isn't it?
Yeah, really nice.
I'm still more of a dipper. I'm not the most confident swimmer, so I will go with other people. I'm still kind of building up my confidence, and then I've also got an ice bath in the garden, and I try and do that quite a lot as well. We've just done a 30-day challenge, sorry, for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So we did a mixture of ice baths or wild swims every day for 30 days. So that was a big achievement.
Yeah, that is a big commitment. 30 days is a very big commitment.
Yeah.
So, do you want to tell us a little bit about some of the defining moments in your personal life and how you think that's played a part in your professional development, just to kick us off?
Yeah, so I started off with a very kind of structured corporate career. I went into sales in my early 20s and ended up running a sales division for a PLC. Was very corporate, very structured, very working all the hours. I was all in. I was very much about the job. And then just over 10 years ago, I got breast cancer. And whilst having treatment, I carried on working. I was kind of the model pupil, carried on working, did all the things, desperately tried to get life back to normal after going through, I had chemotherapy, radiotherapy, mastectomy, reconstruction. It was kind of nearly 2 years of a lot of treatment. And it was after that when I never quite got back to normal. I never quite managed to sustain the energy that I put into things before. All of a sudden, the stresses in the corporate world, the kind of berating people for not being on phone all the time, expecting people to leave the personal life at home, all of those things just suddenly just didn't seem important, didn't seem as much of a priority. And I really started to struggle. didn't acknowledge that initially. Did a couple more roles, decided to move across into different sectors, went into the tech sector, worked at a startup. Jobs that on paper were really exciting, kind of this really exciting tech startup that was Leeds based, that was going to go wonderful places. I was ops manager there, but just kept coming back to this feeling of being really miserable and really, really lost. And then in lockdown, that just kind of compounded, and I ended up reaching out to somebody that I used to work with who was doing career coaching. And it was that point in time that it just made me look at everything that I was doing and realised that, without sounding dramatic, my whole kind of career had been chasing somebody else's goals, really, and doing what kind of society expected. I got the good job title. I had a business card that said that I had that job title. I had the nice car. I could afford to buy my own flat. I was single at the time when all this happened. And it just suddenly, none of it fit anymore. And initially I had this hideous feeling of, it was this kind of desperation. There was nothing to cling to. I didn't know who, what, where, or when I was. I didn't know what to do about it. And suddenly, as I say, I started coaching and started to unravel some of that and unpick some of it, and realised that actually I'd just got myself to a position where that wasn't for me, and I just needed to find a way back to what I wanted to do. If I knew then what I know now, I'd have been excited for that journey. But at the time, it was a horrible feeling. And so I've spent the last kind of probably about 5 or 6 years doing coaching training, doing all sorts of additional kind of healing practices. I've got a huge interest in kind of neuroscience, psychology, doing a lot of self-education. So that, because I think there's a different way that we can be living. I think that a lot of people, through no ill will, through no kind of fault, but they follow this structure that we're told should work for all of us, and it just doesn't. And what really upsets me is the thought of other people feeling how I did, because it was just, you just felt so lost. And that was how Intent Coaching came about, and how I started to move over to coach people and to help people see that, I don't know if it's a certain age, a certain set of circumstances that you go through, but you meet more and more people who my story kind of resonates with, and being able to say, this is how you can go about coming out of that. This can turn into one of the best things that you've ever done. There's not much signposting around that. And I think kind of linked into that as well was having gone through all the cancer treatment. There was also an element of, I can't do 10, 12-hour days anymore, but nor should I. But there was a real sense of me not being worthy anymore, because I couldn't do all of these things and this productivity and this kind of output anymore. And again, I think there's a lot of, and I do think a lot of the time it can affect women. My client base seems to be mainly women, although I have worked with some men, but I just want other people to not feel that desperation, and to see that there is a way of working, there is a way of bringing your amazing skill set to life, but maybe it looks a little bit different to what we've been told, and maybe it's not a 40-hour week, and maybe there's certain practices and things that you have to incorporate to allow you to be your best self.
Yeah, I'm so sorry that you had to go through all of that, but I think you are exactly right. I don't know necessarily if it's a gender thing. I don't know if it's an age thing, but I think you are completely right. We are taught from a very early age that there is a very linear career path that people should be traveling on, and the aim is to have the house and to have the job title and to have the business card and to have the car and to have the marriage and to have the children and all these different things. And actually, the societal norms around that are so strong that it takes a huge amount of willpower and determination to move away from that model. But a lot of people who get to that point suddenly start to question what they've been doing for the past 10 or 20 years, and why it seems so important at the time, and actually at what cost did that achievement come to them.
And I think this is I think as humans, the minute the bit I'm kind of passionate about is that kind of signposting side of things, being able to say to somebody, there is a way to handle this, there is another option. Because if you don't have people modeling that kind of alternative version to you, some people don't have the confidence or even sometimes the time to even sit down and think about what it should look like. And that's what I really found, or really love about coaching, is this: it gives this framework and a way of you to almost pause and be able to reflect and analyze a little bit, to start to understand maybe what things could look like, what you might want them to look like. And you know, we're all so busy, and everybody is, I just feel as if these days, especially post-COVID, people are under a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, and there's not often a place where you can talk, that you can ring fence this time to really just talk about you. And I think that coaching, therapy, counselling, I just think all of those things have a wonderful place, because we do need that reflection time, and we need that sounding board, and that opportunity to test out ideas, and to, in a safe space, and a way to, I think we're part of that kind of societal expectation is that everything should be successful. And sometimes you can try things and fail, and we should find a level of enjoyment in that, because when we fail at something, you can really learn from that. Why did it fail? There'll be all sorts of information there, but you will learn more from the failing and from the putting yourself out there than you will from just staying in that kind of that comfort zone. And again, I think that if you can see somebody else doing that, or somebody kind of supporting you to do that, it just gives you the okay to go ahead and give it a try. And all the times I've pushed myself into that really uncomfortable space, I felt better for it, and I've learned something, and I've achieved something, and it just made such a difference to me. I want to give other people the confidence to do that, and a little bit of a safety net that other people are doing it as well, and just empower people a bit, really.
Yeah. And you mentioned that at the time you were going through the treatment and the time you were questioning your career and your choices, you were single. Did you have that support network around you? Did you have family and friends and people that you could bounce ideas off and that supported you in that professional journey, if you like?
Yeah, I mean, I was very lucky. I had friends and family, just ridiculous things. I had surprise parties. I came out of hospital to find that my flat had been decorated. Like, I just had the best people around me, and with amazing intentions. But the kind of what was put on you and told by the hospital, everybody was expecting you to get back to normal, because I was only in my early 30s. But then retrospectively, when I've been back at hospital for checkups since, the surgeon will say to me, like, oh, you should never have gone back to work full time. The medication you were on or the treatment you'd had meant you should be taking things easy. And it's like, yeah, but I was early 30s with a mortgage to pay. What was there was nobody who offered up another option. It was just kind of do what you can to get back to normal. It's that normal that I just think that normal suits some people, but it wasn't going to suit me. And I think there's other people out there who are probably feeling similar. And I just think the more versions of normal we can see, the more we can find something that suits us. And I think the minute that we can be authentic and be doing something that's right for us, you just get the best version of ourselves, and everything moves easier, and life feels easier, and you're nicer to the kids and your partner. And it's just a whole, work is such a big space. It takes up so much, and society teaches us that so much of our value rests on where we're at with that. And I just think that if we can unpick that a little bit and alter it a little bit, that people would be in a much better space.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. You need to get back to normal, but what is normal? But how do we define normal? One person's normal is completely different to someone else's normal, and actually the pressure that comes from someone, the comment, you need to get back to normal, and then walking away from that conversation without any context or any questioning or any reflection or anything like that, can put a huge amount of pressure on people, especially if they are feeling poorly or trying to work through something in their own minds. That one throwaway comment can be devastating.
Yeah. And I think that, and I do believe, and it's quite a bold statement maybe for some people, but I think it was that normal that actually is why I ended up ill. I am not somebody who, I'm quite sensitive. I don't enjoy dealing with stress. I think that a lot of my key personality traits I kind of pushed down in order to fit into this corporate world. And I very much became a people pleaser and did things for somebody else's goals. Um, and as I say, that career would have been amazing for some people, but it wasn't actually right for me. And I think that life's so busy, there's so much influence as to how we should do things that people just get swept up in it, and that there's very little chance to go, well, actually, I think this would suit me, or actually, I'd like to do things differently. And there's I think as well, with kind of older generations, with family members, there's a fear of you doing something outside of that as well. And that is very well meaning. They just want you to be, financially secure and safe. But I think we're slowly getting to a point where, 20 years ago, if I'd have said I wanted to be a life coach, I'd have probably just been laughed out of the room. And there's still people who think that way, but I think we're becoming more and more attuned to the fact that there's so many different roles out there, and success can look different for different people. And some people will need help and support. And we've got so many different, I think the more we talk about people's neurodiversities, and we understand that everybody's different and there's a space for all of us. But there's a comfort from finding your kind of tribe of people and people who support you to be that version of you that feels authentic.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. I think there is a traditional mindset that to have a career, it's 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and you go into the office and you wear a suit and you wear a tie and you've got your shiny shoes and you take your packed lunch with you and all of these different things. But actually, that isn't the case anymore, because that model comes from the idea of behind a job for life. So you join an organisation at 16 or 18 and that's you set until you start taking your pension. And that doesn't exist anymore, regardless of what sector or what role you're in. Categorically, that's not a thing anymore. That's not something that we should be relying on. So actually what I feel we should be doing is we should be recognizing individual unique skill sets and saying, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? What would you like to do? How do you want to feel? How do you like working? Are you a morning person? Are you an evening person? How does that work, and what does that look like? And can we find something that you will be absolutely brilliant in doing for now? And if you want to change in the future, that's fine, kind of thing.
I massively agree with that. And I think that change in the future, I think that's something we need to start approaching differently. I think that and things are changing, but I think there's still hints of it, that you kind of go into a certain career and you work your way up, and the aim is to get to the top. And at that point, you've got it all, and things will change. And you think, but I don't want to do the same thing forever. And I think that, because as well, I think that the age at which you're making those decisions, some people have got this inbuilt sense of what they wanted to do. I never had a clue until 41. I had no idea until I found coaching. I just didn't have a clue. But I do think that many roles you gain transferable skills and you gain experiences. And I think in the way that we build up towards having, say, a pension, that we should be encouraged to have this kind of savings pot, because I think we should be encouraged to alter. We do 10 years and we've had a success in that career, but we fancy something different. That should be embraced, and that should be, we know that neuroplasticity comes from us doing new challenges and learning new things, and that helps to keep us young. And I just think that we need to break some of these confines a little bit and start to encourage people to just explore and enjoy. And it sounds really flippant, because the flip side of that, I understand that you have a mortgage to pay and you've kids to bring up, and there's these huge financial pressures. But I think we just need to start pushing the system a little bit just to change it and make it more enjoyable. Because now I'm coaching, I can't believe that this is my job. I love it. When I've had a good session with a client, I just feel incredible. And I know I'm helping people and allowing them to be their best selves. And so when you do something that you were meant to do, it's just a complete different energy. And you just think, if everybody could do that instead of being tried to fit into these boxes, I just think we'd all be a lot happier. And that's kind of the aim, really, I think.
Yeah. How have your hobbies and your personal interests, the things you're doing outside of work, how are they contributing to that business mindset and the development of those skills?
So I think a lot of my hobbies, because of my health issues, a lot of my hobbies are things like I love yoga, sound baths, Reiki. But when I say yoga, I'll do like restorative yoga and yin. There's so many different types. Or forest bathing, going out on walks. I've really realised that we have to, self-care needs to be something that we approach in a different way. I think a lot of time we think that if we've managed to lie on the sofa and binge watch Netflix, that's downtime. And I'm not criticizing doing that, because it has its place, but that doesn't restore our body. It doesn't allow our mind to switch off. It doesn't allow us to kind of regroup and rebalance. So a lot of my hobbies are now around that, around taking me away from electronic devices, from pressures, from time constraints, and doing things that I know are really good for my body, are really good for my mind. I used to work, I was full throttle. If you needed something doing, you could come to me and I'd get it done. And I could, my output was quite impressive. And I always thought that was a really kind of, and I could multitask as well. And I thought those were my kind of real skill sets. And now I've realized that I never had the time or space to think. If I start to get stressed at work now, I will stop what I'm doing where possible and come away and go for a walk and do something. And when my mind is calm and looked after and nourished, that's when I have the best ideas. And you realize that you do need that balance, and I need that time away. I also need, I've struggled a little bit when I went self-employed to have days off, because you get opportunities or you have a conversation and you're not doing the kind of 10-hour days anymore. So it's hard. Things can become all work, and it's not good for us. It's a false view of this productivity. We need this time away, and we need creativity. We need to do all these different things that allow us to be the best version of us, and that will then come over into the workplace. But doing that, we're quite used to that all-in kind of dedication that we expect from people, and I just don't think it brings the best. So yeah, my hobbies are all about just allowing me to be me. And it looks different for everybody, but I am somebody who I like outdoors, I like quiet, I like calm, I like things that can be at a slower pace. So me doing those things allows me to be the best version of me at work. And I've realized that the hard way through the, pushing myself and this kind of hyper focus that I used to have, and kind of, I'd go 8 hours at just putting something together. And yeah, there needs to be elements of creativity and rest and different paces and speeds and variety, I think.
Yeah, and you've mentioned creativity, you've mentioned reflection, you've mentioned neurodiversity. What are they skills that you feel are undervalued in the business world, if you like?
I do. I think that, my personal experience anyway, I feel as if when you're in the school setting, you are graded as to whether you are creative or not. I wasn't particularly good at art. I wasn't good at drawing. I couldn't kind of sketch a person. So I had this real belief that I wasn't good at art and I wasn't creative. And there was no, especially in the business world, there was no value against doing things for the fun of it or for the just because. And once I kind of hit rock bottom and I had more downtime, one of the things I did start doing was just going out and I've done clay pottery making, lino printing, like just all the things. And you just realize that actually I am a creative person, but my creativity is more like, I love interior design. I'm creating an app for my coaching at the minute and doing the kind of content and the designs for that I'm loving. That it takes all sorts of different elements and skill sets, and the more parts of our brain that we use, again coming back to that kind of neuroplasticity, it's good for us. And I just, when you say about kind of neurodiversities, I just think some people are good at certain things and work in certain ways, and if we embrace that, you get wonderful things. If we push against that, you get the worst version of people. When I worked in corporate, one of the roles I was in, it was a particularly toxic culture, and it brought out the worst. And as somebody who's obsessed with kind of people's personality traits and how things work and how people work together, we went from working with this wonderful group of people to seeing the absolute worst of all these people. And then these people are kind of labeled as, but they're not. They've just been pushed to limit, and you're in that fight or flight mode, and it's bringing out the worst characteristics. And I just love it when you see somebody in the opposite of that, in that positive, supportive environment, and you see them flourish. And I can't understand why we don't want more of that, because it only ever leads to good things.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think the other thing, talking about toxic culture, the other thing about working in a corporate environment is there is an expectation on your behaviors and values, and actually because of that you recognize that expectation as an individual, so you almost shy away from being yourself in particular situations. You dampen down authenticity as much as you possibly can, so that you can try and fit into the mold that other people are saying that you have to fit into. So how do you, now that you're away from that environment, how do you make sure that that personal authenticity is apparent to everyone that you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis?
I think it just comes down to, I know how to look after myself now. I know what makes me the best version of me. I know that I need to factor certain things in during the week. I need to look after myself. I need to nourish myself. I need to eat well. I need to have some time outside. I know the type of people that light me up. I know the type of people that don't. And I've got that through doing all of this work. I think one of the things I have developed is kind of an inner confidence. And I always thought, I didn't always think that being overly confident was something to kind of aspire to. I didn't know if it was a bit brash or but I've realized that it just means that I understand who I am now, and I'm comfortable with that, and I'm not for everybody, and that's okay. And that's given me the ability to make sure that I work with people who I know I can help and that I align with. I'm not in this kind of really fixed business mode where I'm grasping at any opportunity. I want to work with the people who, and I think the authenticity, if I'm in this role as a coach, if I'm not authentic, I will end up working with people that I'm not going to be able to help as much. I have to remain authentic, because then the people who I can help will see me for me and will think, oh, actually, that's my type of person. But I think that authenticity is just also having those core people around you that you know support you, those people that you know give you that feel good. And I've been really lucky with kind of people that I've met in business and people that I work with now, that they bring out the best side in me, and I like to think I can do the same for them. And you understand what environments, I've met you at networking event, and the going into those networking events where it's a supportive environment and where people build each other up. And I know now that those are my space. If it's that kind of competitive, harsh environment, I just won't do well in it. So I just don't do it anymore. But yeah, just think if we're all able to be authentic and be comfortable with being ourselves, you will naturally find and gravitate towards the right people for you. Whereas when things are forced, or when things are, you're trying to fit a vision of what you believe you should be, they just don't align for you, because you how can they? Because you're not being clear on what you want or who you are. So how's anybody else expected to know that? And I think it comes with you'll know from being in business, you do hit a point where there's a financial pressure, and it is easy to make the wrong decision. But I know now that if I have those spaces where there's some downtime, that the answer to the question will come to me naturally, whereas if I force it, it won't. So now if I just look after myself, I will be authentic in business, because I'm calm and I'm where I need to be. Whereas if I don't look after myself, I will start to unravel and I'll make the wrong decisions. So I think you realise just how entwined your personal and your work life are. And if you're the best version of you in your personal life, it does just feed through to business as well.
Yeah, brilliant. That was absolutely excellent. Thank you, Alex. I'm going to ask you one more question that wasn't on the list, but I think you're going to smash it, so I'm going to ask it anyway. If someone came to you and said, I'm thinking about becoming self-employed, or I'm thinking about setting up my business, what would your advice be?
I think my advice would always be to go for it. I think that it's an incredibly empowering process to go through. I would, in an ideal world, advise people to, rather than do it at the point where I did when it was almost out of a desperation, it would be to start planning what that might look like. And I know a lot of people, some people reach that decision by knowing that there's something they want to do, whereas others just have this feel that they want to go and work for themselves. And I think it comes back to this. I would recommend that they spend a period of time really looking after themselves, doing some self-care, starting to do some coaching, therapy, trusted friends, whatever works for you, but start to have those conversations about why are you doing this? What's the motivation behind it? What would life look like if you were to be successful? How would you feel that? What would be your kind of markers of success? It might be that you're available at home for the kids, or that you can do a 3-day week. Start to really kind of envisage it and dig deep into it and understand it, so that when you do go to make that switch, you understand what you're aiming for. Because I think it's very easy to have that thought and then not put in the groundwork, and that's where it can unravel. I tried to coach about 5 or 6 years ago, and I hadn't done the work on me. So I couldn't show up on social media because I didn't have the confidence to do it. And networking was a bit much. And I had all the skill sets that I have now, bar a few less years experience, but I wasn't able to be authentic, and because I was trying to do it at the wrong point in time. So I would always recommend somebody go for it, but I'd ask them to maybe flesh it out and start to just really deep dive into what it would mean and what it's going to look like, because then it's suddenly... I had a conversation at a networking event this morning as well about, we are led to believe that when we make that step, success will happen very quickly. And I think that reality is that it does in some ways, but it takes time to build. You're not going to be a success overnight in very many industries. So I think you need to be in that good headspace and understand what those markers of success look like to you in order to keep going, because it's a tough journey at times. It's there's good and bad days, and like with anything, there's good and bad. But if you've really built yourself and got yourself ready for this and understand what you're going into and what it needs to look like, you're going to have that longevity, which is what is key really to you finding the success. So yeah, it'd just be that real understanding of it, and that real thought behind it, so that you understood what you were going to do and where to go, and just to take a deep breath and slow it down a little bit maybe.
Fabulous. Thank you, Alex. That was brilliant. Well done. And I'll go into the conclusion. So thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Strings to Your Bow. I hope you found our conversation as inspiring and insightful as I did. Alex shared some incredible stories about how personal experiences have shaped her journey, illustrating how challenges can transform into opportunities and life lessons into professional success. It's truly fascinating to see how our personal histories weave into the fabric of our business achievements, reminding us that every aspect of our lives contribute to who we are as professionals. As we discussed, the skills and insights gained from our personal lives are not just supplementary. They're essential for building successful careers. Whether it's learning resilience from overcoming adversity, finding inspiration in hobbies, or drawing strength from personal relationships, these experiences are crucial in shaping our unique superpowers. We'd love to hear from you, so share your own stories of personal growth and business success with us on social media using the hashtag Strings to Your Bow podcast. And your experiences could inspire someone else to view their journey in a whole new light. Looking ahead, we have more incredible guests lined up, ready to share their unique journeys and insights on how the personal and professional intertwine. So be sure to join us next time as we continue exploring the multifaceted nature of success.